Hello! Today we're going to do bold acrylic flower patterns. We're going to play with some colours, some designs, and just see what happens. Because that, I think, is the spirit of art, is we need to play so that we can release our creativity and have some fun. I hope you are well. Welcome to Friday Art with me, Kate Field. I'm an artist, teacher and speaker, passionate about helping people develop their creativity and their creative spirit, finding it because it's in there somewhere. We all have it. We are humans. We are naturally creative. Sadly, some of us were told when we were very little that we weren't creative and we weren't artistic. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. If you have never used acrylic paint before, then you're going to love it. You're going to love it. If you are well versed in using acrylic paint, then hopefully you will find something new here as well. We're going to be inspired by nature. I live in a wonderful part of southwest England in Dorset by the sea, and I'm surrounded by nature. And I'm always inspired by that. So enough of me waffling on, let's go. I've really been looking forward to doing this. I've been thinking about it for a while. I love using bright and bold colours in my work. And I thought, yeah, let's go straight in with bold acrylics. So I'm using a variety of different brands, and some more expensive than others. You can use whatever you want. We're going to start off by playing, as I nearly always do, and we're just going to try out some ideas. So you don't have to have very high quality material. I'm working it in my sketchbook. I like to work in a sketchbook. Those of you who have followed me for some time know that I like to refer back to what I've done, and I encourage all of my students to as well. Now we're going to be using the references of the flowers, and I'm just thinking I want to go a little bit abstract, but I still want it to have a bit of a floral theme. So I am just going to go straight in, a little bit of water, not much at all, and I'm going to go straight in with the blues, just on this page here. I'm just going to start here. I might move things around, and I'm just going to paint a square. Just going to put that in. I'm just going to do this very quickly, very roughly, and I would encourage you to do the same, because I don't want you to be thinking about it too much. I think this is going to be quite intuitive, this kind of first part. So we're going to do that one there as a pale blue background. I'm going to change brushes. I'm going to come into the orange. Let's just do an orange space here. And then I'm just going to do pink. There's still a bit of orange on that brush, that's fine. Let's just do a pinky orange space there, like that, like in that. And let's just pick up a little bit of that yellow and pop that down there. Now, because I haven't used a lot of water, this is going to dry really, really quickly, but I think while that bit's drying, I'm just going to turn my book around and do some more on this side. I think let's just sort of combine some of these colours. That's the magenta and the yellow. I'm just sort of creating these spaces, and swap my brush over again for the blue. I like to have separate palettes for my warm and cool colours. You don't have to do that. It's just something that I like to do. then I know that all of the colours in the palette are going to work well together. But you don't have to do that. You work on whatever you like. Right, let's just put that one in there. Like that. What I might do with this one is add a tiny bit of the yellow. That kind of a green hint. Like that. And then I'm going to go back to my pink. Pop that one in there. Now, if you're not used to using acrylic, this is going to be a good exercise for you. Just allow yourself to try things out and to play. So I'm going to turn my book around again. And so what we have is these kind of 8 spaces. They will dry very quickly, and within these spaces I'm going to create some flower designs. I think a lot of people, when they're just beginning, can be a little bit intimidated and not really know where to start. And I think by starting off by putting in these spaces, these areas of blocks of colour, it's a really good way to kind of get you going, isn't it? I'm using a flat end brush. This is dry. My wet brushes are here on a rag, and I'm just going to go in with yellow with no water. And what I'm going to do, I've got my reference, and I'm just going to put the yellow on top. Now, yellow is a very tricky colour to work with, and I'm going to need to do a few layers. I'm just going to put in, and I'm using the paint quite thickly, sort of going straight in. So the blue is going to kind of come out. But remember, these are experiments. I'm trying something out. I'm thinking, right, is this going to work? Is this going to have the effect that I want? And it might well be that I think, no, it just isn't. That's not working at all. And that is the whole point. The whole point of working things out in a sketchbook is that you try things out. You see whether it works or not, whether it works for you. I'm going to clean my brush with my rag, not water. I'm going to leave that bit to dry. I'm going to move on to this bit here, and I'm going to go in with orange. So orange on top of this sort of orangey magenta. And again, I'm just putting these, so this would be a little bit more subtle, just as the background bit comes in into the space. Just and I really do encourage you to enjoy the process and not to worry about what it might look like, because this is going to be messy for quite a while before it starts to come together, and I think a lot of people get worried about that. Don't be worried about it. Don't be worried about it at all. So I'm just putting these sort of large flower petals into these spaces, seeing what colours I like, seeing what works, and also learning about the paint. Because if you are new, then, and if you've never used acrylic paint before, you have to learn how to use it. It's just one of those things that we have to do. So this is a good playful thing to do. So I've done that one there. Let's move down to this one down here. I think I'm going to continue the theme with my magenta and orange. I do like that. It's just, and you'll see how the paint reacts on the different colours, what it looks like. And learning about this is really important, and the only way to learn about it is to do it. You just have to get your brushes out and work it through, and you sort of pick up the skills as you go. So it's no good you just watching me. You have to pick up the brush and do it. And then if you'd like to share your work, you can join our lovely Facebook group. The details are all in the description. Oh my goodness, it's such a friendly, happy, joyful place. It's, yeah, it's wonderful. Very, very supportive. We've got people in the group who are absolute beginners, and we've got people who used to do a lot of art and haven't done it for ages and they've come back to it. And we've got people who just love art and who's been doing it for years. Who, you know, it's just a really lovely space. So if that sounds like something that you'd like, then come and join us. There we go. So I'm just sort of playing with these a little bit more. They will dry quickly. I'm going to turn my page around like that. Let's just get that one. So don't be afraid of doing that. Don't be afraid of turning the book around. There aren't any rules, anything like that. I think let's just see what happens with this one on here. Yeah, if you're not sure even where to start, just start by doing some circles. Yeah, we're going to go in with some more detail a little bit later, but not now. I think another thing that people can get a little bit bogged down with is this idea that it's all got to be precise, and don't be afraid of the messy stage. And when I'm talking with my students about this, because they do worry about it, a lot of them get very, very worried that their work just looks a mess. And I remind them, as I will remind you, that when we go to an art gallery, we see the finished pieces, don't we? In their glory. What we don't see is everything that went on before. We don't see all the messy bits in the sketchbook. We don't see all the stuff that went wrong and that the artist had to work through to get to where the finished piece is. And I absolutely love it if I can look through an artist's sketchbook. A little bit blue get into there, that's fine. Because you can see the process, and you can see where they were trying out new things and where things didn't work quite as well, and I think that's something that we can all learn from, and it's certainly what I tell my students and you. Yeah. And I think one of the problems is that we pick up sort of negative things on our way. Unfortunately, people have had not very good teachers at school who said very negative and unkind things, and that can put you off for life. It's my mum was told that she was rubbish at art, and it stayed with her for years, and it's just not true. She's a very, very creative person. the teacher meant was that she wasn't very good at drawing at that point, but she was quite little, so, you know, duh. Oh, goodness. Anyway, don't get me on that. Let's be a bit more positive. I'm here to tell you that you're doing fine. Right, I'm just going to wash that brush in my water and just going to dry it. And on this one, I'm going to do more of a white flower. I love white flowers. I could do these with sort of more kind of daisy-like petals. Thank you for your lovely comments. I do read every single one. I love hearing what you think and how you've been inspired, or what inspires you and what you're going to do. And for those of you who are new, we quite often have a weather update. And the weather today is a little bit overcast, but you know, the sun is going to come out, and we've had some gorgeous blue skies, as you can see from my earlier photos. That was down in Lyme Regis in Dorset, southwest England, near to where I live. So beautiful blue sky and a beautiful agapanthus. So how glorious was that? I'm going to leave that white one to dry a bit more, and I'm going to put a little yellow bit in it. Right, let's just sort of turn it round again, because this was all round the wrong way. And as you see, very messy. We are still in the messy stage. I'm going to leave it to completely dry, which will take maybe about 10 minutes or so. So I think I'm going to go and make myself a coffee. I had a very nice cup of coffee. And now I'm back. I like this idea. I've put some white on this one because I want to bring out the yellow a bit more. So I'm just putting a few layers of white. Now what I'm going to do, I'll just find my piece of paper. So I went to get my scrap of paper and my cat Monty was sleeping on it, so I've got another piece just to cover up this underneath, just so it doesn't get mucky. Now I'm putting some white over the top of this, and again you need to work quite quickly, and then in that white I'm going to pick up the yellow. So what I'm doing is just sort of blending the yellow into the white. What I'm going to do on these designs is just a few ideas before I then work on thinking about how I'm going to develop one or two of them. Just sort of bring that together. And this is how I work when I'm creating a piece, you know, a larger piece. I will try out lots of ideas in my sketchbook, just sort of little ideas. Some I will discard, some I'll come back later, and some I will develop. I'm just sort of playing with this idea of the yellow. So this is sort of inspired by some of the wild flowers in the hedgerow opposite my house, and they're really pretty. And again, I'm not it's not a botanical drawing. I'm just inspired by the colour and the shape. You can just sort of just see how those are sort of blending together, and I'm going to do is to put a little bit of texture. So I'm using the end of my brush, the tip of it, dipping it into the paint and then dabbing it. get that kind of more textured effect, which I quite like. So I'm going to leave that one in my brush and move on to this one down here. Again, I've just got my rag, dry the brush, very important to do that. You can use acrylic with very wet, it gives it a completely different effect, so it's entirely up to you. And again, practice, try different things. So I'm going to just go over the top. So once acrylic paint has dried, you can paint over the top of it, and the lower paint, the first layer, stays where it is. It doesn't move about. So that's something you absolutely cannot do with watercolour. But you can with acrylic, which means that if you don't like something, you can paint over it. So it's quite forgiving in that sense. Again, I'm just blending this a little bit with the orange and the magenta, and just thinking about what I might do, which ones I want to develop further. In a moment I'm going to do some things in the background, because obviously these are still very, very messy. There we go. Put that there. Oh, that was quite funny. My husband diving into my studio to tell me he's going out. There we go. So you can see I'm just sort of combining these colours here. So I'm liking that. I'm liking the orange and the magenta. So I think that is going to be something I'm going to develop on the next page, the next step. And you will find that the colours work differently, they feel differently. When students start to really work with paint, any paint, whether it's watercolours or gouache or oils or acrylic, different colours feel different. And that's because of the various chemical makeup of the paint itself. And you will learn, you will get to know how they feel and what you can and can't do. And that takes practice. It's the only thing that works. Nothing else works. Just put a little bit of white texture in this one, just sort of fading that out. Just going to pick up a little bit of white here, quite liking this. And one of the things that I really do encourage you to do is to just come out of your comfort zone just a little bit and just try something that you haven't done before. It's about kind of just being a little bit brave, because it's only paint, isn't it? It's only paint, it's not going to bite you. I'm quite liking this idea, and I will come back to this because I think this one I'm liking. I'm liking that one as well. That one up there as well. It's all things are coming together. Okay, right, I'm going to work on this one down here. I'm just going to wash my brush, dry it again. With this on the orange background, I'm obviously using the same colours here but on a yellow background. So I'm just going to see what that might look like. So keeping to the magenta, and again this shape was inspired by some more wildflowers. So pop that there with a bit of white. Get that kind of feel. Yeah, use your brush in different ways, try out things. Use different size brushes. You'll have favourites. I have sort of various size brushes that I use all the time, and I have a few quite expensive brushes that I hardly ever use at all. And again, it's not that it's right or wrong, it's whatever works for you. I like this idea of splodgy colours. Let's sort of see what that looks like. It's quite fun. And again, I might just put a bit of white into there, into that space. Like that. So you can see very different techniques giving different sorts of effects, and that's what I wanted to do. Right, I'm just going to turn my book around. I'm going to pick up on this one, again drying the brush, and I'm going to come back to my magenta, but quite liking this blue, so I'm going to add the magenta there, and then I'm going to pick up some blue like this, just sort of seeing what this might look like, and then a bit of white in there. So completely changing what was there previously. So I wanted to show you that you can just go over the top of something that you've already done. Quite liking that idea. Let's just do a bit more, just to see if this is something that I want to take further. Like that. Of course, the danger is that you end up doing lots of designs and you like them all. And then you think, oh my gosh, what do I do? Yeah, that's when you have to be a little bit disciplined and think, okay, I need to start one of them. Doesn't mean that the others will never get done. It just means they're not going to get done straight away. So can you see that it's completely changed? I've gone over the top of the previous paint because I wanted to see what that could look like on that background. Again, it's going to look quite messy. Like that. And then what I'm going to do, again, use my white to do some sort of highlight bits, just to see what that could look like. Put in the bits and marks. A little bit messy, a little bit scribbly. I yeah, I might do something with that one as well. Now, the next bit I'm going to do is to work on some of these backgrounds. So I'm going to have a look at this one with the orange background. I've now got a very fine pen. I'm making it damp, but not too wet. And I'm going to be introducing some black. Now, I use black in my work, but I don't use very much of it. And I've got one pot of black paint that I've probably had for about 3 years. You only need a really tiny amount. I'm going to mix this with the blue. Tiny bit of black in the blue. So it makes this kind of a bluey grey, like this. And then what I'm going to do, let's get that piece there. I'm just going to go into the background a little bit. I've got a bit of a hair that's gone a bit astray on this brush. So I'm just going to wipe that. And again, when you're doing sort of more detailed stuff, just take your time. And it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. Just want to get a bit of a kind of a smudgy edge there. I'm going to add a tiny bit of water. Just to sort of move that around a little bit. Just so that that paint disperses. A little bit more water. Again, you have to do this quickly because the acrylic paint will dry. So I wanted that kind of shadowy type effect. You'll see in a minute what that can look like. And then I'm going to add some white. In the background like that. So that's sort of going into the grey. Just wipe that one. Again, just sort of playing with what this idea. I wanted it quite textured. Like that. And then I'm going to sort of do another one and just, again, I'm just seeing, you're seeing my process, because I think it's important that you understand that things go wrong, that you're not always going to get the results that you want. And I'm kind of I like to show my mistakes, actually, because I think that can help. In one of my tutorials last week, so we're in August 2024. I don't know when you're watching this, but I was doing some text, some writing, and which I really love. I love using typography and letters in my work. And obviously I was chatting away like I am now and completely misspelt a word. And I didn't notice it at all until I was editing. I thought, oh, how silly is that? But I left it in and then tidied it up at the end. I had quite a few comments actually of people saying that it was it was good to see that I make mistakes. So you can see I'm just sort of playing around with an idea of putting in some shadow bits. I'm not sure whether it works or not. It might do. It might be better with a bit of black on the magenta rather than the blue. That might have a better, that might be a better effect. But yeah, I'll have a look at it. And on the next, in the next page of my sketchbook, where I'm going to take some of these ideas and develop them further. And developing a piece is one of the things that many of my students struggle with, and you might as well. And it's about not just going with the first idea that pops into your head. I'm quite liking that, and I'm thinking that the magenta, the black and the magenta works better. So I'll just do this, kind of bringing in some of these shadows. And if you study art and design, then it is really important that you learn how to develop. And with my college students, some of them are hugely talented, really struggle with this idea of developing a piece of work, and it's essential. That's what you have to do. You can't just run with the first thing, because it's not going to be as good. You might well come back to the idea and the concept, but things need to be worked through. And there's just the joy in trying out something and not worrying about the things that go wrong, because things will go wrong. There we go. So let me know what you think. Tell me what you're inspired by and the colours that you like, and that kind of thing. Share some of your thoughts. We'd absolutely love to hear from you. I'm quite liking the contrast of the sort of scratchy textured background with the smooth flower. Quite liking that. So that might be something that I develop a little bit more. Right, I'm going to move on to this one and perhaps do something similar with the magenta and black. Again, I'm using my tiny brush with a tiny bit of water. It is watered down a little bit. And then I'm just going to come into this. I just had an idea of what might be good in these sort of lines, quite fluid. I mean, you could also use an acrylic pen. I do use acrylic pens in my work. But for this one, I thought, no, I just want to use the brushes today. There we go. Again, putting some more lines in, a little bit more texture. I might add a bit of white into there, over the top of the yellow background, to see what that might look like. Sometimes I think this kind of grungy look can work really well with the sort of the delicate flowers. So, I was born in London, and I've grown up in towns and cities all my life, until very recently, when my husband and we moved to Dorset 6 years ago. And I love the urban environment as well, but I also love the way that nature kind of takes over. And when I was doing my art degree, my first art degree, I was really fascinated with the sort of urban environment and the way that nature does take over sort of like abandoned buildings and things like that. There we go. I'm quite liking that as well. So I'm going to have a bit of a think, and I'm going to let these dry completely. I might do a couple of other little tweaks, and then I'm going to show you how I develop an idea. So I did a few more doodles on some of these, and now I'm going to move on to the next page, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to take some of these ideas and develop them a little bit further. Now, because I do this a lot, and I will kind of refer back to it, but I kind of know what I'm doing. But if you are new to the idea of developing your work, then you might want to work on a separate piece of paper or in another book so that you have your references. So it's entirely up to you, of course. Now I'm going to put down a background, and I'm going to use acrylic paint to do it, but I'm going to be scraping it across the page with a scraper. I really liked this sort of bluey green background here, so I'm going to do that. I'm not going to fill the whole page. I'm just going to do it in a space. And I'm going to take my pale blue here, and you can see I'm just scraping the paint across the page. So it actually is quite thin. If you haven't got a scraper, you could use a piece of cardboard, that would work as well. So I'm just going to put that there. And because I wanted that kind of green tinge, I'm going to put the yellow over the top in some of the spaces. And because this is scraped across, it will dry very quickly. Just going to put that one there. And then I'm going to do another one underneath, and I'm going to change the colours. And I'm going to go for this background, which was the orange and magenta. Exactly the same. I've just wiped the... wiped it on a cloth. So what I'm doing now is I'm developing an idea. So again, I'm not near the finish, or I'm still trying things out. And it's going to be a little bit bigger than the previous ones on that page. And I'm just going to see what happens with this idea. I do like the kind of grungy feel. I'm going to go with that idea in the background. Scrape that. If you feel that there's just too much, you just take it off, and you can scrape it a bit more. I went for a walk the other day, and it was near an old railway line, which is sort of abandoned now, and there was some barbed wire to stop people trespassing, and through the barbed wire were these gorgeous flowers. I did like that. It was made me smile. So you see this one, little bits of yellow, little bits of magenta, with the orange as the dominant. I'm going to put that like that. And you can say this one is dry already. And so I'm going to leave those. Going back to the things that I was looking at before, I like this one and I like this one, but this one up here has an appeal too. So I'm going to go for this kind of daisy-like idea on this top one, and with this one I'm going to go for a combination of these two. I might use both. I'm going to be using the same technique, different size round brushes, and I'm using the same colours that I did before. So I'm just going to turn my book around this way, actually. I think it's always good to have a different angle. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go in with my white, and I'm just going to put in some petals. Ooh, hair there. Let's move that one out of the way. Again, you can look at your sources, look at your references, have those in front of you. Again, I liked the idea that the slight ridges in the acrylic paint. I think that works well. And then I'm going to do some here as well, just coming out, so that you have this idea of maybe a meadow or something like that. And this is just like a little snapshot of these daisy-like flowers in the meadow. And this kind of design is coming together like that. With the designs in and sort of ideas in my sketchbook, I very rarely finish them, because that's not the point. The point is I'm trying out an idea. Some I will work and really spend quite a bit of time on it, but they're not finished pieces. And I think some people can get a little bit frustrated, or they could get bogged down with this idea that the work in their sketchbook has to look gorgeous. Certainly some of my students have this this problem, and your sketchbook is a place for ideas. You're trying out things. You don't have to show anybody, unless you're one of my students, then you have to show me. And I want, with my students, I want to see mistakes. I want to see the things that went wrong. I want to see how they resolve the problems. That's so important. So I'm thinking that these designs will be part of a surface pattern rather than a painting. But I'm not sure. I might turn it into a painting on a canvas, something like that. So again, you can see I'm going off the space. Again, that is really important. Don't just kind of plonk your flower in the middle. Let's just do that. So I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're having a bit of fun, trying out new things, being brave. And if you're enjoying it and you haven't subscribed yet, perhaps you'd like to do that. And then you can catch up with all my past tutorials. So that'll keep you going, won't it? And I am releasing content twice a week, so on a Monday and a Friday. And from September, I'm going to be doing Wednesday Wandering. So those of you who know me from Instagram may already know that I did a Wednesday Wandering. It was a live every Wednesday, and I talked about health and well-being, which is another one of my passions. I talked about creativity and the arts and being outside and all of that kind of stuff. And stuff gets in the way and it kind of fizzled out. But I thought I'm going to start it up again on YouTube. It won't be live, but it will be released on a Wednesday, and it will just be me chatting and talking about all of those things: creativity, well-being, sort of developing your art practice, just sort of nice things really. Just be me having a chat for about 15 minutes. So can you see what I've been doing here? I'm kind of building up this this design here, and I'm quite liking it. It's going quite well, and I'm now going to switch to my thin brush. Oh, excuse me. And I'm just going to pick up that black mixed with the magenta. And I'm just going to go in with some of the edges, just sort of picking out some of the edges of the flower, again keeping it very, very loose, like this. And I think, you know, working with black, you know, and I do work with black a lot, it can deaden the colour a little bit, which is why I do like to mix it with another colour, so in this case the magenta. And you can just sort of keep adding to bits as you see fit, really, as you think that things that you like. I'm just going to wipe my brush again and then just sort of pick out a few bits here, again creating this bit of an urban feel in the background, as if these are, I'm just going to move that over there actually, move the, as if it's kind of battling its way into the light. I love going around sort of old ruins, and we have a lot of old ruins near to where I live in the West Country. Well, they're scattered all over Britain actually. We have a wealth of old things to look at, and obviously some of them have been restored and some have been looked after, but some they haven't. And whilst Jonathan and I were in Cornwall a couple of weeks ago, we found this spectacular ruin of a castle, and it was fascinating to see how nature was taking over. It was really, really lovely. So that I'm going to leave that one there. This one, this white one, I'm going to do some other lines on it, but I'm going to wait until that white is completely dry. So on this one, I've mixed together some of the blue with some of the magenta and white to get this lilac. And then I'm going to put in some lilac onto the white. And painting white is, I love painting things that are white. And one of the exercises I do with my college students is to really look at something that it's white, whether it's a flower or a piece of crockery or scrunched up piece of paper, and for them to really see that there are lots and lots of different shades of sort of grey tones. Some are blue and some are lilac, depending on the light source. So I might actually do a tutorial here for you on painting something that's just white. Let's just do a white study. So here I'm just blending blending my colours. Just sort of a little bit of water on my brush. Just doing sort of quite gentle strokes. And try things out. See what the brush can do. See what different marks the brush can make. And again, I'm not going to finish this. It's not like I'm going to do every single petal. I don't need to do that because I am just trying out an idea. I'm developing an idea. And it might be something that I completely abandon. Or it might be something that I come back to in a few months' time, or even a few years' time. So I keep my sketchbooks. I've got a lot of sketchbooks. And I think this is another reason why I love sketchbooks so much. It's good to kind of go back to where my thought process was. And I will make comments on my pages. I haven't done yet, but I will do. I'll pop the date and I'll just make some comments. And there'll be the sort of things like the things that I like, things that I felt worked well, things that I think didn't work well. So I'm going to leave those. I'm not going to do any more petals, but I am going to do something in the background. And I'm going to have this as the blue with a bit of black, like this. A dark green might work as well, actually. That could be good. Just putting a little bit like that. Just going to take that off there a little bit. Just added a bit of water, just so I can sort of spread that out so it has this sort of shadow effect. I quite like that. Let's just do this one in here as well, I think. Like that. And the thing with these sorts of designs is that I might go completely abstract with them, or I might go a bit more realistic. There's, various different ways I could go. And that is the whole point, is you have a kind of a starting point, and then that can take you on a journey to something quite amazing. So I'm just going to pop in a little bit of orange in the middle. Just sort of pick that up, a bit of yellow, like that. So you can see the contrasts that I'm building, and that I like that idea. So I am kind of thinking, what am I going to do with this? And at the end I will show you what I do. And hopefully you've got lots of ideas now. You're thinking, oh yes, I could do that, I could try that out. Or it might be that you are just playing with the paint because it's new to you. And that it is just such a good thing to do when you are just starting with a new medium, is to just try it out. So I'm just putting in some of these, just adding a bit of water here. I am liking that. I'm liking both of these. They're quite different, so it's unlikely that I would put them in the same design. But there are two interesting things that I could work with. So a little bit in there, like that. And it's just given me another idea. And that's what I'm going to do next to just finish off this Friday art tutorial. Let's just put that there. So I've started to have a little bit of a play with this idea. I did the scraped background. I put some white lines in, and I'm just going to do a few little centre pieces here of these sort of daisy-like flowers. The idea that they're kind of in a meadow, I think. And I might do a little bit more on this. I might not. I might just leave it in my sketchbook and then come back to it. So let's just have a look at what we've done. This is still a little bit wet. So starting off, let's just lift that bit up there, of creating the various spaces, putting some ideas and thoughts, choosing a couple, developing them a little bit further, and then having another play of what actually might be a finished piece. Before I end, I thought I would just have another play with a different design, similar to the one I did on the previous page. Liking these colours, putting the paint on quite thickly. I'm just having fun. I think you can probably tell that, can't you? Just sort of, I want to get this energy. I have this kind of feel of the flowers bursting through. And again, I'm not sort of planning it very much, but because I did the previous studies, I kind of know what I want to do. And again, it'd be something that I will then refer back to at a later time. Just sort of putting the paint on there. Seeing what happens down in this space as well. Like that. Just let's put that in like this. It's quite a good way of using up my paint as well. Magenta in. It's such a gorgeous colour, isn't it? What a gorgeous colour that is. I really hope you enjoyed this week's Friday art. I love working with acrylic paint, and I love working with very bold colours as well, and I really hope that you've got something from this. If you haven't liked and subscribed and you think this is something that you'd like to do, then that would be lovely. And write a comment. Tell me what you're thinking, tell me what your weather is. Always like to have a weather update. And, well, I will see you soon. And if you want to see some more, you could look at this one or this one. Bye bye.